Hey guys, Waggish American here. Today I'm going to be doing an in-box review of Tamiya's 1/48 scale Spitfire Mk. The box is adorned with typically beautiful Tamiya box art. If you like to keep box art afterwards as a poster or a display item, as I do, Tamiya makes this very easy because they keep their labels and logos and stuff to a minimum. You get some kits like Edward where they don't even have backgrounds, or Revel of Germany where they plaster their boxes, but Tamiya keeps their boxes pretty simple, so it's just a quick cut here, quick cut here. You've got a beautiful poster to hang on your wall. This is going to be really ugly looking, but this is just the nearest one I can show you. I keep the Tamiya A6M as a poster there. I've got a bunch of other ones on the wall, which I'm not going to show because just moving to show you that one looked terrible enough on camera. The sides of the box demonstrate one each of the full wing and chopped wing options. Clipped wing, sorry. It sounds a lot better than chopped. As with most Tamiya boxes, the box is gloriously in two halves. None of that end opening nonsense that has invaded the European kit manufacturers. Tamiya sticks with these good boxes. Why the European manufacturers insist on terrible side opening boxes, I'll never know. Tamiya doesn't seem to have any problems there, however. Their boxes are consistently good. Alright, let's crack open the box. First things first, let's take a look at the kit's instructions. Firstly, Tamiya includes this single sheet of paper. Now, I don't know how common this is. I didn't get one of these with the 48 scale A6M2, but this may be a newer thing they do. I've noticed it on a couple other Tamiya kits I've got. Now, what these sheets are, and the reason, if you look at it compared to the instruction sheet, that it's significantly larger than the instruction sheet. For some of these smaller or single-engined aircraft, I've got to jump ahead a minute, pop open this bag. These are not free-floating. I've already looked at these. Tamiya has started including full-size, like 1/48 scale camo guides for painting. So now you don't have to try to guesstimate where your stuff goes. You can just cut out your tape right over the Tamiya guide, and it will be the perfect size and the perfect shape right off of the box. This is a fantastic idea. I don't know how long Tamiya's been doing it. I don't know if anybody else is doing it, but I would love to see every kit manufacturer get on this program. It is immensely helpful. On the actual instructions, they pretty much fit the Tamiya mold. You've got a black and white picture of the completed model, a fairly good type history in 4 different languages, one of which is English, one of which is Japanese. I believe the other 2 are German and French. Given how much detail Tamiya packs into kits the very minimal parts count, the instructions manage to stay simple, clear, and presented in a sensible and orderly way. There's only one assembly whose placement does not make sense to me. That comes in at step 5 over here, and that is the hint by Tamiya to install clear parts now. This is about halfway through the build. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to install clear parts at this point in any build, especially when you've still got major assemblies like the wings, which that's just exposing the clear parts to way too much potential damage from scuffing or glue spills. So that'd be the one part of the instructions I would say you should probably disregard. I would pretty much everything in this step, besides maybe the exhausts, hold off on it until you are done, at least with assembly. Depending, if you're hand painting, you can probably install it after assembly. If you're airbrushing, you might want to hold off until you're done painting, or at least until you've got primer on and then you've masked it. Lastly, the kit provides you with I got some oil paint on my fingers just now. The kit provides you with 3 marking options, 2 elliptical wings and 1 clipped wing option. They both look pretty good. No real personal identification marks, so you're really just picking if you like the letters AGM or SNM if you're going with the elliptical option, and you only have the one option for the clipped wing. So if that's what you want to do, then that's kind of what you're stuck with. The aircraft is molded in 2 sprues of the typical Tamiya dark gray color plastic, and one sprue of clear parts. In the first bag, let's take a look at the clear parts. These are molded with typical Tamiya near perfection. I'm only able to find one small instance of flash, and it is so minor it's almost comical to even mention it. Right there, those two little dots of flash. A single tick with an X-Acto knife, and these are flawless parts. Compared to some Tamiya decals, they're a little bit thick, and some of the more curved options seem to distort a fair bit. But they are dead clear, even if they do distort slightly, and there's not a seam line to be seen. They're very clean, very nice looking canopy sections. The sprues themselves are very organized. They each seem to be dedicated to one subsection. The first sprue is the fuselage sprue. I have, again, removed the fuselage prior so I could do test fitting. But on this sprue is pretty much everything that goes into the fuselage. You got your two fuselage halves, which I can confirm fit perfectly. And there's some small little issues, little mold problems, and that's not even a mold problem. Most of these problems are me using clippers on the sprue and not cleaning up with a knife. But even with those tiny gaps, the fit of the fuselage is perfect. It's just perfect right out of the box. As long as you don't carve it up when you're cleaning the sprue gates off, you shouldn't need to use any putty on this unless something goes horribly wrong in the cockpit area, which I don't believe it will. The fantastic detail also on the fuselage halves. It looks really busy, it looks really good, really crisp. Really impressed with the fuselage on this model. The rest of the sprue is dedicated almost entirely to other fuselage parts. It's pretty much the cockpit sprue from there on. You got a bunch of small parts which round out your cockpit. If I can get it to focus here. You get some parts of the wheel, the pilot figure. Really nice that Tamiya continues to include pilot figures, as a lot of manufacturers have gotten out of that. Tamiya continues on. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of here on this sprue, Tamiya, it's a nice touch, it's a nice idea. On the wheels here, Tamiya molds in the Dunlop, the logo, but the problem is this is way over scale and it's super thick. I don't think the real Dunlop would be that large or that visible. So to fix this though, all you need is a couple swipes with a sanding stick, just lower the detail and it'll be fine. The second and final sprue is dedicated almost entirely to the wing and propeller assembly, with a few tiny exterior decals sectioned off in their own protected area. Things like the pitot tube and radio antenna are hidden in this protective box, which is a nice touch. It's always nice when your parts are not breaking on the sprue. I don't know if this sprue was cut, the mold for this were cut after the first part, but these are even cleaner and even nicer than the first sprue. There was barely any flash on the other sprue. There is literally no flash on this sprue. It is perfectly clean. Even the ejector pin marks that are not damaging are really well hidden. It's just incredible how clean Tamiya is able to do their molds. All recessed. This is a new Tamiya kit. It's not one of the old 70s ones, so you have entirely recessed, very nicely recessed panel lines all around. Now, the one engineering choice I'm not a big fan of Tamiya having made is that these cannons, the Hispanos, are molded into the wing. I don't really like any time guns are molded into the wing unless they're like really stubby. But especially these ones, they have very small connectors. The way they're molded just makes me very uncomfortable, and it seems a prime candidate to be bumped or broken and lost forever by the carpet monster. They're protected well on the sprue. They mold the extra sprue around to protect them. But I just exercise caution when you're at the building stage and you're sanding and everything, if you've got to sand that seam around these cannons. Lastly, Tamiya's decals. These are kind of interesting. I haven't seen Tamiya do this on anything yet. The decals are included on two separate pieces of paper, separated by, I don't remember what it's called. I'm just going to call it parchment paper. A baking sheet, maybe? I think that's what it's called. But this first sprue, remove these. Ooh, that's dangerous. Be careful. I almost ripped that. The first, not sprue, the first decal sheet is white backings for the decals and just the markings, the aircraft markings. The second sheet here is dedicated to the rest, everything else. Now I don't know much about Spitfires. It's not really my area of interest in general, so I cannot say if Tamiya is lacking stencils or if the Spitfire was just basically free of stencils. But yeah, what is there looks good. Everything's legible. I always like it when stencils are completely legible on aircraft, even if I can't understand them, like all the Rebel of Germany kits I build. No idea what most of those stencils say because I don't speak German. With the way these were packaged, facing each other, protected, separated by a sheet, it looks like they would have been virtually impossible to damage in transit, unlike some of my Edward models. So that's a big point in Tamiya's favor. The sheet includes national insignia and specific aircraft markings. Decals look very nice on paper. They're matte, they are very, very thin. They have virtually non-existent carrier film, really nice in-register colors, and just very clear printing all around. I won't be able to say until I build the kit, but I fear that these decals will probably end up falling into the typical Tamiya curse that decals seem to have. They may look nice on the paper, but too often they apply terribly. They don't stick, they don't conform, but we'll have to wait and see. The backing is a nice touch, the backings here. Though I shudder to think how if they end up being bad, how two Tamiya decals stacked together conform to things. So I would test, like take one of the markings you're not going to use, one of the aircraft numbers, and apply it to a scrap model just to see how it goes. If it's rough and it's not conforming, you might just want to get a circle cutter and do these manually, spray your whites, and then fight through the rest of the Tamiya decals, but not have to double up there. So there's my peek at the Tamiya Supermarine Spitfire Mark 5B. Fantastic kit, looks absolutely amazing. Every time I see Tamiya's products, I'm amazed, especially their newer 48 scale stuff, how much detail they are able to cram in to seemingly no sprues. Like the amount of detail, how detailed. If you've seen other people's builds of this and mine when I do it, just the cockpits are tremendously just packed with things, and Tamiya fits this entire kit on 2 sprues. That's fewer sprues than a lot of 72nd scale models. It's incredible. Decals look nice. Just be wary of the decals. That's a thing that seems to hold true for all Tamiya decals. They always look nice. They never seem to apply well. I don't understand why they won't just go to Cartograph like all of the other good decal manufacturers have done and just export their stuff to Cartograph. Yeah, it's a good kit, typically Tamiya. Can't wait to build it, and I will see you guys next time.